Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Southern Outdoorsmen Podcast, coming at you once again from Studio West because our normal studio is in disrepair right now. We're fixing it up, so it's going to look a lot better when we get back there. Mr. Jacob Myers, how you doing?
I'm doing good, doing real good. I mean, could be doing a little bit better. We get some updates on turkey season so far.
Yeah, boy.
But it's been an exciting couple days. But anyway, I'm doing real well. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. Getting some videos done that are going to be out. We got the Meadow Creek video out where we just talked about how to sight in your turkey gun. That one's doing pretty good. Y'all go check it out if you haven't seen that so far. It's a quick video that's going to teach you how to not waste a bunch of TSS. Man, I'm not used to wearing my actual wedding ring, and I keep smacking it on this.
That's not good.
I know my plastic one broke. I ripped it in half. So anyways, we're gonna do some Q&As in this one. We got a deer hunting Q&A on one sticking that we're gonna get to, and then we got a couple turkey Q&A submissions that we're gonna get to as well. We've got a whole back catalog of deer questions that we're kind of holding on to right now, and we need to start working through them. So we're gonna start, kind of peppering more deer questions in here. We've got some turkey questions too that are still in the queue. So if you have wrote in a question in the last couple months, we're gonna get to it. I promise. We're definitely gonna get to it. But y'all keep writing them in. We really appreciate the submissions. It's fun for us to do, and also it's a good way for us to bring up our back catalog of content, because we've done so many interviews with so many people now that it's good to go back and listen to those things. That's why we do throwback episodes from time to time, and also that's why we love the Q&A, because we can go back and point you to an episode that probably answers your exact question that you wrote in, because after doing 500 some odd episodes now, there's a lot of good info back there in that back catalog. So before we get to the Q&As, we're going to give a little update on turkey season, how it's been going here. We opened up on this past Monday, and we were able to get a couple hunts in. Opening day was windy.
It always
windy.
is. Last 2 years has been like that.
Yeah, we went out with Greg. I guess we talked about it on the episode with David and Greg. We went out, listened the couple mornings before season came in, and it was pretty good. We heard a lot of different turkeys. We're pretty excited. We got to talk about that one guy in the club, man. We got to talk about him.
I got competition. His name will stay anonymous, but
yeah. I don't know if he's a listener. If he is, he should reach out, because I feel like I was joking with someone the other day. I'm like, right now he's like my nemesis, because he's pretty hardcore, and but I haven't met him yet, so therefore he's my nemesis.
But he was there during deer season, right?
I think so, but I don't think I ever saw him pinned out in deer season. I don't know if he just didn't hunt it in deer season, but there's a member of the club. So again, people who've been following along for a while probably know that. I joined the club last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So I got a full deer season, full turkey season, and now this deer season on the club. Been able to kill a couple deer off of it, killed a nice turkey off of it last year. And for the most part, the club, it's not very high competition on the club, whether it be for deer or turkey. Most of the guys don't really show up. Like for deer hunting, for instance, most of the guys in the club only hunted 3, maybe 4 weekends, and most of them were in the rut early January. So basically right around New Year's, there's a lot of people hunting the club. Other than that, it's the same 2 or 3 guys hunting the same 2 or 3 stands. And other than that, I kind of had the run of the place outside of 1 or 2 other guys. One guy in particular who he's got his own little stands out in the woods. They're not like a shooting house on a food plot or on a power line. He's going and putting up his own stands. So there's that guy. But as far as anybody else mobile hunting, nobody does it. Same thing for turkeys last year. There was 1 or 2 guys that turkey hunted a decent bit. They hunted a good bit the first 2 weeks of season, and then they kind of fell off the map. And again, I kind of had the place to myself a little bit. And then this year, and also too with the club, if I get out there at 4 o'clock in the morning to pin out, I'm the first one there every time. If I get there at 4:30, you're risking it a little bit. But for the most part, if you're there at 4, which we were joking, our public land standards is pretty slacking. It's pretty late. What time do you normally get out for when we have our public opener here and you got your little coveted spot that you're all excited about? What time you getting there? You probably don't want to say.
It'll be real early. real early.
Earlier than, well, you don't have to tell me exactly what time.
It'll be as early as me and Michael Pike used to go out downtown and still be out at different bars. By the time I get there, we'll still be at some of those bars.
Yep. Yeah, there was one time where we were supposed to film a turkey hunt, and I'm sitting at the gate, and it's like...
It was one of those nights.
It's 3 a.m., and I called you, and I hear music in the background, and I almost just hung up. I was like, yeah, he ain't making it.
Yeah.
Back in the clubbing days.
Yeah. Oh, man.
No, so basically, about 3 o'clock, get there.
At least.
At 3 o'clock. That's... so you're leaving, depending on where you're hunting, you're leaving the house, like, super early. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's just what it takes to get into some of these spots. And Sam and Blakely were out there scouting a whole bunch in the couple weeks before season open, and they kept running into this guy. And he was out there listening, and what they were telling me, they were like, yeah, I mean, he seems pretty legit, you know, like he knows what he's doing. He said that he like took off opening week, and when I heard that, I was like, uh-oh. So I was like, again, I'm used to the private. I don't know this guy. I'm used to private land culture, you know. We have a sign-in sheet at the club where when you go pin out, you also sign in this little notebook, and you just say the date, what time you checked in, what time you checked out. And we show up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I get there at 4 a.m. on the dot. Mike got there at like 3:55 because I was like, hey, I don't know who this guy is, but just to make sure, like, let's get there real early. And, dude, we show up, and that dude is already there, pinned out in the exact spot we were going to go to. And you know what time he signed in at? Early. 3:15 a.m. 3:15 a.m. on private land. So that's pretty legit. That's why he's my nemesis. But if I met him, I'm pretty sure we'd get along pretty well. Me and him probably click. I don't know the guy. Seems like a nice guy from what Sam and Blake were saying.
Yeah.
So but anyways, yeah. He beat us. We were pretty sour about it. It was bad. I was like, I mark my words, that's the last time he beats me to a spot. So, anyways,
Doubt it.
He got out there and beat us to the spot, man.
What time you can get there Friday?
I'll just sleep out there. Oh my goodness!
Get there at 1 o'clock in the morning. Sign in, pull it to your spot, sleep for about 3 hours.
Well, I live so close, I just go back home and get in the bed for 2 more hours. I mean, you could.
I sleep pretty good in the truck. I'll just pull over, get me a little blanket and a pillow. I'll be like this.
Oh yeah, so
like in a casket.
He just straight up beat us.
Yeah.
So that it is what it is. So we ended up going to a different spot.
Do you remember seeing that guy on the workday?
No.
Or like hearing that name?
No.
I wonder if he like just got in or something.
I don't know. He might.
Or he just. They don't do just turkey rights in that place, right?
No, they really. I don't know. What the property is, so it's 1,800 acres, and depending on how, like, turkey hunting's different than deer hunting because you're like most turkey guys are pretty mobile. Most guys aren't just sitting on like a food plot with a decoy. They're moving to some extent at least, and with how the property sets up with the cuts and the ridges and everything and the non-turkey areas like the thickets and whatnot, that. I was telling Sam, I was like, I really think that this place can only support like 6 turkey hunters at one time. And it like, that's pretty crap. Like if I show up and there's 6 guys pinned out, I'm just going to go back home. Like for real. Just cause like it's not a big area. Well, opening morning ended up being 7 people out there. So it was pretty crowded, and it was not like that last year. So I think that maybe kind of speaks to the growing popularity of turkey hunting, which, you know, people have been talking about here lately.
Someone in the club shared the podcast.
Maybe.
I heard you talk about turkeys. Like, man, we're just going to go out there and go follow Andrew's truck around.
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
It might have happened. Who knows?
I don't know.
Old Trev might have shared some stuff.
I don't think Trevor. I don't know. He might know.
That's what I'm saying. He might found out about me, like saw it on Facebook or something. He was like, "Oh man, y'all check this podcast."
He might. Well, because he actually works with a guy that I grew up around.
Loose lips sink ships and turkey spots.
So the guy I grew up around, he's like my dad's age, and he was the dad of one of my friends we went to church with. Like grew up my whole childhood in church with this guy, and I ran into him not long ago somewhere, and we were talking about the podcast a little bit, and then like 2 weeks later, the club president sends me a selfie with him. He's like, "You know this guy?" And I'm like, "Oh no."
Oh, I'm telling you, that's what it was. He slipped, guaranteed.
Oh, he probably did, bro.
Those 6 members are listening right now.
Oh, they might be. I don't know. If they are, I'd appreciate if they said something. But anyways,
if we start getting messages and it's like 4 or 5 guys,
I would laugh so
you're
hard.
like, I guess we're not talking about the club no more.
Yeah, for real. I'm not talking about it in as much detail. Either that or I'm just going to start lying about where I'm at. I'll be like, yeah, I'm over there on field number 3. There's a giant behind it.
We get comments all the time on YouTube. We're like, how are these, like I saw a few different comments in the last couple of weeks. We're like, how are these club members not listening to this podcast?
Because I ain't said nothing about it. We were actually having a conversation with someone the other day about like hunting club culture and the kinds of people that you normally run into in hunting clubs. And like a lot of the guys in my club I don't think are overly tech savvy. A lot of them are older guys, which is one reason that I kind of have as much like freedom as I do, I guess, because they're not really getting off the roads or anything.
Man, listen,
if you get in a club with a bunch of like 30-year-old guys, you're gonna have issues. Like you're gonna have guys who are getting off the path. But if you're in a club with a bunch of guys who are like 60 and older,
hey, listen,
it's different.
You're talking bad about some of our listeners. We got some 60-plus-year-old listeners that
no,
get
no.
after it,
Well,
bro.
see,
listen, guys.
Well, I'm not saying all 60-year-old. Like if a 60-year, it's the kind of person, like the kind of person listening to this podcast, the kind of person that consumes this kind of content is going to be the kind of person who's like a mobile hunter. And the other guys in the club, your weekend warrior guys, they don't care to carry a climber through the woods. Like I was talking to one of the guys, he's like, I just don't want to carry all that weight around, which is perfectly understandable, if like that's your escape and you're not looking to go kill yourself every weekend. I get it, man. There's no shame in that. It just works out really good for me, So that's one reason that I decided to not jump in the other club, because talking to Cody, who is in that club, he was like, yeah, the kinds of guys in that club, he's like, if you go out and you're hunting like a terrain feature out in the pines, like you're probably gonna find like a climber or something or a camera. Like those guys are getting off into the woods doing the thing. So that's just like something to be mindful of, But yeah, there were 7 guys out there, and the guy that beat us to our spot killed a turkey. Killed one
late too.
He got there at 3:15. This is why I respect him, even though he's my nemesis. So far, I really do want to meet him. I feel like we kind of hit it off. Like I just want to talk to him because
it's probably best you don't meet him.
It might be
after turkey season, so we have something to talk about.
Yeah, probably so. So that guy, he got there at 3:15, and he killed the turkey at like 2:50, according to Sam.
I'm
Sam was texting 2:50 in that windy
as crap.
I mean, talking about you were going to take the Nukem blind, and we were standing at the truck. I'm like, I don't think you need to bring it. Like, I legitimately think it might blow away. If we're sitting on top of a ridge, it was really bad. You couldn't hear anything. It's like a nader. And but no, he hung in there with him, and he killed one at 2:50. So I was like, hey, that guy's as legit as they come.
He already killed another one too.
No, he didn't. You're full of crap.
You checked the book?
No. Yeah, so I hunted yesterday, and he didn't know. I was the only one that hunted yesterday.
Today was the day.
No, bull crap.
He took off all week. It was the best weather of the week was today.
I don't know. Cody was out there today. I could ask Cody if he was hunting. So
hey, hear that shot?
Anyways, open morning, me and you went to where actually. So on our last podcast, we were talking about Greg hearing a bird that was on a ridge top that he said was really killable.
2 clucks with a trumpet, he'd be dead.
Yes. So we went and hunted that bird, and we got into the spot. And again, it was just super windy, so we're going to be like real low key and just kind of listen and get in there. And we know that they wanted to be on this ridge top. So this is the exact spot where that bird was the other day when Greg was listening for him. Mm-hmm. He gobbled enough where Greg knew exactly where he was, and it's a spot we have history with.
Yep.
We hunted it some last year, so we've got some actual turkey hunting experience in the spot. It's always scratched up in the spring. And so we just kind of eased in there with the mindset of, hey, we're just going to sit here and see what happens. We're going to listen. We're going to soft call. We're going to get in a killing position before we do our calling. So we get in there and we sit down, and we don't really hear anything off the roost. We might have heard like the back end of a way off gobble, but nothing that was like real close that was interesting to us. I don't think we heard any like fly downs or anything.
No.
So we ended up sitting there, and this is where we made our first mistake. we're sitting like kind of in a little saddle, and we're facing down one of the sides of the saddle. So you're facing down into the drainage, and there's these 2 ridge points that kind of run down on either side of it.
Facing the downwind side of this ridge.
Yes.
The leeward sides we talked about a couple weeks ago.
So we're hunting the leeward side. So the wind is kind of broken a little bit right there. It's not crazy, and you can hear pretty decent. Like if there's something in the bottom, we probably could have heard it. And we were just sitting there, and it gets light, haven't heard anything, and we're debating on what to do. And initially, I wanted to get on the very top, like the higher spot, and there's a long little finger ridge that runs down off that high spot. So this is your classic ridgetop hub, like we talk about with deer hunting, where all these little finger ridges, it's like spokes of a wheel that come up to this middle ridge. It's kind of like your hand, again, like we use the example of your hand, like the palm of your hand would be the high spot, and then your fingers would be the little finger ridges. So there's one in particular that's like a real long one. Had good luck with turkeys on it in the past. Seen them there in deer season, seen them there in the spring, heard them gobbling there, like the whole 9 yards. And I wanted to get on that, but we were a little bit apprehensive to crest over the hill because this is like oak, hickory, shortleaf pine, upland hardwoods. So like kind of rare for around here because everything is cut, but those upland hardwoods are pretty open underneath outside of some sparkleberry or some other stuff that's growing up in there. And like I got out my binos and I'm scanning around, and you can see way through the woods. Like when you're just sitting there, it kind of seems like you can't see that far, like maybe 70, 75 yards just with your naked eye. But if you pull the binos out and you start turning that focus knob, you can see 100+ yards through those woods. The problem with that is that you get busted by turkeys that you never knew were there. And that's what we were afraid of. So we were kind of afraid to get up and move, especially getting up and moving on top of the ridge, because then you're just exposed to everything. You're kind of skylining yourself. So we're like, well, why don't we just call right here? So we did a little, with the mindset being that a turkey would hopefully be down in this bottom and he'd want to come up this saddle, because they cross through the saddle just like deer do. And we get questions about that. We've had a couple questions in the past about that, just here recently, about how turkeys use terrain, and I think they use it pretty similar to deer. And you can see it when they're scratching. That's one cool thing about turkeys that you were telling me about, that you and Mike noticed as you were walking around this area, is you can follow that scratching up the side of this finger ridge. It goes right through the saddle, and it goes down the other ridge towards the food plot. And it's just like perfect. It's like they're leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for you. And then you walk over the ridge and there's like nothing, there's no other scratch in there. That's not to say that turkeys aren't walking around over there, but the bulk of them, they're not like moving through and feeding in that area. So we're like, okay, this kind of makes sense. So we get out the Spurmaster, cluck a couple times on it. And, you know, Gary was saying that call, like you really need to be in the woods to appreciate it, because we're using it in the shop and in the house and stuff. Dude, I gotta admit, what was your impressions of it? Like sitting a couple trees away?
It sounds, especially with the clucks, it's like that lower pitch cluck. It's not like a glass, like, because you brought, I don't know if it was it your Dixie Hen Crystal or whatever?
Yeah.
You know, that's got like a really sharp cluck. That Spurmaster has this it's like a
dense.
Like a deeper, more, it's a subtle cluck, but it sounds like the frequency carries.
Yeah.
Like, and we talked about that a little bit in that episode with Gary and Lyle, that like some of your high-pitched calls to your ear sounds like it's going to carry really far, but sometimes those lower-pitched calls could actually carry a longer distance.
Yeah, there's almost like a hollowness to it. Yeah. Almost. It's kind of hard to explain. But it kind of did echo down through there, right?
Yeah. It sounded really good. I mean, that is a good point. Like, it's one thing to do it like in the shop or in the house and see how it sounds. Outside and seeing, like, hearing how that lower frequency like carries. I mean, it sounded awesome. It's again pretty freaking easy to run, because I used it a little bit later on when me and Mike went out. Not to jump ahead, but I thought it sounded great. But yeah, you did a couple clucking sequences with it, a couple soft yelp sequences, and I kept thinking I was hearing something down in the bottom, like walking around. For all I know, it could have been a squirrel, but it's like you just keep hearing like shuffling going back and forth. And then we sat there, and I don't remember what time it was, because I wasn't watching my watch at the camera with me. And I think you had done a calling sequence. It might have been like 20 minutes had passed after like maybe the second calling sequence. You're like, it might have been 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that. And because we've been hanging out there since 6. Yeah, about
6 a.m.
Yeah, 6 o'clock, 6:05. And we were like, man, you know, let's try to maybe move up to that next secondary ridge point, the one that you had more confidence potentially turkey coming off of. And that's when everything got a little crazy.
Everything unraveled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. We actually felt like we were hearing stuff down beneath us, which there could have been a turkey down there. I don't know. But this is the hard part about hunting birds that are silent and getting in there and just hanging out with them is, like, when you don't have that gobble to orient you to what direction they are, it can get really hard because they can come from a lot of different areas, and it's hard to stay focused too. And that's pretty much what happened. I mean, we sat there. We get like, the only part I'm upset about is the setup, because I wish we would have got up on top of the ridge. But looking back, like, I don't know if I really would have done anything different, because I was facing the direction I thought the turkey would come from. We gave it. I made the first call like pretty early, and I mean, we had sat for at least 30 minutes because I was looking at my watch, because I was like, a lot of times when you're sitting there, especially on silent birds, you think you've been sitting longer than you have. So I actually use my watch, and I'll just put an arbitrary number. I'll be like, I'm not moving for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Me and Mike did. I was like, we're staying in this spot for 45 minutes.
Yep.
Like, we're going to do 2 calling sequence, and we're going to sit for 40. Like, we're in 45 minutes, we're going to do 2 calling sequence. The last calling sequence can be 20 minutes until we leave.
Yep.
And we're just going to see what happens. Because, again, it kind of goes back to, like, what Lyle, I think, well, no, it was Wayne Lackey talked about. Like, if you're kind of getting in a rush and you're calling, they're not answering, next thing you know, you've walked 300 yards and a bird gobbles from right where you were just at because you're just walking and calling.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm trying to get away from. It's like more so like, find the setup. If you think it's solid based off the sign and how everything lays out, give it a little bit of time, because maybe they do come in quiet. Both birds I killed last year came in quiet, both of them. And they were gobbling pretty good that morning. It's just, when they came in quiet. And, one of them, the first one I killed, 3 of them came in, and I could hear them walking, spun around the tree, and was able to get position. The last one, he just popped out. Like, I'd called, and he just popped out 35 yards from me. It was kind of quartering, kind of like walking around, checking out what was going on, and was able to make a shot. But, yeah, it is. That's one thing I always tell. Like, I told Mike when we hunted together, I'm like, a day when they're quiet is not like the best representation of what turkey hunt should be like.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you can kill them when they're quiet, to me, it gives you even more confidence to be able to, kill them when they're actually, gobbling, and you're able to like make plays on them.
Yeah, especially in an area I'm familiar with. It's really changed my perspective, because being in the club has kind of forced me to like buckle down and keep hunting the same areas over and over again. And it actually gives me a newfound confidence in hunting birds that are pretty quiet like that, because I know where they like to hang out based on all of our experience from last year and listening before season this year. And that's how I was in this area. I was like, you know what? If we just get in the right spot and give it time, it's probably going to happen, even if they are being quiet. And yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And so we sat there for 30 minutes, and then finally I was like, you know what? We're going to go crest over the ridge. We're going to go get to where I wanted to go initially, and we're going to call down that ridge point. We're literally going to move like 65 yards and reset up and call over the ridge now, because now we're calling, like, the ridge is kind of blocking us from this little finger ridge. So like the tip top of the ridge, we're just off the back side of it. If you go over the top of it, then that's where that finger ridge is. And essentially what had happened is that turkey heard us, and he came up that finger ridge just like he was supposed to. And I like turned to you to say, hey, we're gonna get up and go. And I think I was grabbing either my rangefinder or my binos, and I like had my hand on the bino harness, and I looked to my left, and there's a longbeard standing there. And I was like, crap. And he was like not quite 90 degrees to my left. He was probably like 75 degrees.
If you were facing at 12 o'clock, he was at your 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
About 10 o'clock. He was like right there. So
he's probably like a little closer to 9 than 10.
Okay.
He was pretty far. And this is what I was saying, where I'm like, I don't know if I'd have done anything different. Because when I turned and looked, he was just standing there, and he was looking, and we were hidden pretty good. And I'd ranged a spot, and it was like 53 yards. And like, I could have thrown up on him if I wanted to, because like we just patterned my gun at 50, and it throws like nasty, like no issues whatsoever at 50, which is further than I like to shoot him. That was the other thing that while I was disappointed in where we set up, because like that bird, because exactly what I was afraid of happened with a setup like that. What happened is he came over, and he was pretty much level with us, by the time he could see in there. And by the time he could see our position, he was probably about 60. And he maybe worked in that extra 10 without us noticing because he was just far enough in my peripheral vision that like I can't really see over there. And I've got the gun up and I'm kind of hyper focused on this ridge point because like you're not really going to hear them coming, as we found out, in wind like that. So you just got to be vigilant. You got to be watching. And so I was watching and I'm just scanning with my eyes. I'm not turning my head and looking because again, you don't know where they're coming from. So you can't be like doing this. You can't be looking left and right. So I'm just looking with my eyes. And then when I turn my head over there he is. And he didn't like putt or anything. He just kind of like looked around and he stood there for, I don't know, not that long, maybe 10 or 15 seconds. And then he just kind of slowly turned and started walking off.
Yeah.
Back the way he came. And like I probably could have, this is something I'm not very confident in, but you can't, I've seen people do it and you can't do it. In a situation like that, you don't want to like, because I had the gun already kind of pointed at him. All I had to do is raise it to my shoulder and shoot him. But I had the gun off my shoulder. And like I've seen, like you don't want to jerk the gun up in that situation and like make like a fast movement. You want to just real slow and smooth, just pick it up, you know, not like super, super slow, but just very smoothly, like not herky jerky, just pick the gun up. And usually they're like looking like, what is that?
Yeah.
And you can get them.
Looking back at it, I think you could have done it because of how windy and everything was moving.
Oh, for sure I could have done it,
But
man.
it would have been different if it was one of those calm mornings when nothing's moving and you go to do that motion, they're like, pop, 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 and just gone.
Yeah, and wondering, I mean, it was like 7 o'clock or so, or 7:30.
Yeah.
It was really early on opening day. I'm like, man, I don't really want to swing on a turkey like the season's young. Like I don't have to kill this bird, you know, and I don't want to throw up on him and body punch him or wound him potentially. Like I just kind of sit there and I stare at him and he turns around and walks off. And we kind of look at each other and we're like, okay, well, let's let him move off and let's let him drift off. And then we'll get up there and see if we can call him back. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we did. We got up there and we called. And the setup up there, as soon as we got on top of the ridge, I was like, gosh, dang it. We should have been up here. It was perfect. It was the perfect setup. But, you know, yeah, hindsight's 20/20. Bird never showed back up.
Yeah, never showed back up. But again, you know, kind of a good lesson learned. I mean, you said, you ranged the spot 50-something yards. For me, where I was sitting, which I wasn't far from, I mean, I was probably 6 yards from you. He looked far. Like, and that's the thing. Like, when you look at a turkey and he's not strutting and he's just out through the woods.
Yeah.
After, like, we had gone and shot, you know, like, you shot, like, your gun at, like, 70 yards. David shot his gun at 70 yards to see what it looked like on paper. I'm like, that turkey's, for me, I was like, that turkey looks far.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Where are you standing at? And it's like, you know, some people take shots like that. I'm not, even though a gun might be capable of it, it's just, there's so much that could go wrong, like what you're saying.
Oh,
and
yeah.
also, it's fun when you get them like freaking right there. Like again, can't see behind 100%. The camera. You get them like 22 yards, 25 yards from you. It's like, dude, that's a freaking blast. But
yeah, I ended up having to go after that because it was on Monday, so I had to go work. But Mike was still out there,
yep.
And you and Mike went and hunted around, and like y'all didn't really turn up anything.
No, and then we did. I think it was 3 sets because we couldn't hunt that long. He could only hunt till like 1 o'clock. So I think we did 3 45-minute sets in a couple different spots that I was interested, kind of back in there. And never heard a bird, never got on a bird, nothing like that. Again, fairly quiet. But what was interesting, we got down to one of those food plots, kind of did a big loop through that like parcel and kind of got down on the on a food plot. And when we got down in there, it's kind of in between these two different ridge systems that in the past, like the turkeys have roosted on.
Yep.
And kind of been around. And we got to the food plot, and instantly it's just like there's droppings everywhere, like just turkey scat everywhere in the food plot. And we looked over, saw a cell camera, kind of waited to cell camera. They couldn't find out it was Cody's cell camera. He texted me like an hour later. He's like, y'all see anything back in there? I'm like, it was quiet for us, but I'm like, no, nothing crazy. And but man, I was telling Mike, I'm like, on a day like this, you might not have a lot of confidence, but like after my season last year and dealing with a lot of quiet birds, like they gobble good on the roost, you can't make a good play on them right off the bat, and then you gotta like try to make a play on them like later in the morning. to me, that gave me more confidence to hunt on quiet days, as long as you know there's turkeys in the area.
Yeah.
If you're going to a brand new area, you're not finding scratch, you're not finding droppings, not finding tracks. It's pretty hard to stay focused in that aspect.
Yeah.
But in an area like that, I told him, like, dude, at any point, when we do, one of these calling sequences, we could have a bird just come spitting, drumming straight into us or walking in. So I kept telling him, like, if you hear something walking, let me know, because me and him, I was trying to sit really close to him so we could, like, kind of whisper back and forth, just in case. Because, like, if you hear something coming off your side of the ridge, because, like, we kept setting up in spots where, like, he would cover, like, what I thought the predominant way a turkey would come in. I'd kind of cover the back side of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you hear something walking, you let me know. If you hear something walking, you point that gun barrel in that direction. But, like, don't shoot. Like, the second you see it moving, don't shoot. Like, we ain't trying to kill somebody, okay? Like, it's confirmed it's a turkey. And also, this is something important, and I had a talk with him before, like, as we were walking out there. I'm like, do you know the difference between, like, a gobbler's head and a hen's head? And he's like, kind of. And I explained it to him, like, the colorations look a little bit or a lot different, but also, like, the feather line of a hen comes all the way up to the back of her head. A gobbler's not going to have feathers to, like, pretty much, like, or at the wattle. Yeah. So, like, you can see that pretty easily when you periscopes up. So I'm like, don't shoot a hen, okay? Kind of like David talked about last Monday's episode. Don't shoot. Like, no. So we had that talk just in case. Because I'm like, I just don't want a hen to pop up and pow. I'm like,
just smokes a hen. Oh my gosh, that'd be terrible.
Especially for, oh my God.
His like, first turkey.
Just I'm like,
smokes it.
Yeah, so I made sure I went over that a couple times. I'm like, even like the color, like, because I've seen hens that had like not really a red head, but it wasn't like a gray faced hen.
Yeah,
it had like a little more coloration to it, and it's like the easiest thing is like just look at. First off, you can see wattles, but also look at like where that feather line is on the back. If you have feathers on the back of the head and like high up on the neck on the back of the head, it's a hen. And
I was telling Sam and Blake the same thing.
Yeah, just don't shoot.
Yeah, just be sure, because they were asking too. They were like, "How do you tell the difference?" Like they're like, "What if I can't see the beard? How do I tell if it's a Jake?" So we were going over all that stuff, and actually that afternoon, like I thought that bird that we got on that morning, like I thought he drifted down this ridge point again. I thought he just probably walked right back where he went to, and Sam and Blake were going back out there at like 2 or 3 o'clock, and they were like, they're totally new, so like they're texting me. They're like, "What do you think we should do?" And I dropped them a pin. I was like, "I think that bird's probably still like right here somewhere." I was like, "Just go get set up and just call to him." And just sit there and hang out. And, like, it's just afternoon turkey hunting on a windy day is just a patience game. Like, you're just going to have to be patient. You're not going to run and gun it. So they went there and got set up. And sure enough, about 4 o'clock, that bird gobbled right on the end of that ridge point. And could be a different bird. I like telling myself it's the same bird.
But a turkey gobbled.
A turkey gobbled right there on that ridge point. And he called to it a couple times, and it never did come up to him. And I think that's because they were hunting. Really, the same thing kind of happened to us yesterday, which we're about to get to. It was so windy, and they were kind of up towards the top. I'm like, I don't know if he's going to walk all the way up there right before a roost. I think he's going to roost further down, and it sounds like that's what he did. So they didn't end up killing it. But all in all, honestly, like I was right after that turkey, like it didn't work out on that bird. I was pretty upset, not gonna lie. And you can see it on the video when you're filming me. Like I'm sitting against the tree and you're filming me coming from the side, and I'm like, like, dude, it got me. Like I went from like absolutely zero, nothing, to like I was breathing like real heavy because he just caught me off guard. And but then like as the day went on, I'm like, I actually feel really good about that because like I didn't shoot the turkey, but I feel like I kind of won that. I got him in gun range. 50's about as far as I like to shoot him. I like him to be closer, but I'll shoot one at 50. And I got him into gun range. He was right where I thought he was going to be. I did the soft calling and everything. I wish the setup was better. I wish I killed the bird, but as a confidence booster, I'm like 15, or an hour into season, I had a long beard in gun range. So Good start. Better than last year, where we were kind of running around like chickens with our heads cut off, and we'd like spooked like 3 birds.
Yeah, busting birds left and right.
Just running right into gobbling birds.
It was windy last year, but they gobbled really good on the roost, and which was the opposite of this year. Like this year, it didn't seem like they gobbled at all, at least on this property, opening day. in the morning on the roost. And last year's like we were chasing them, and then that wind kicked up at like 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and it was like you'd be calling. And again, that sound carries a lot further than you think it does. And you go down a holler, come up the other side, and as you're coming up, that sucker's coming over the top, gobbling his head off. You're like, oh crap, he's right here, and like just getting busted. So,
oh yeah,
which makes it challenging. But I'm excited. Actually, Thomas was asking me. My brother, he texted me, or actually he called me earlier. He's like, how's turkeys been? I explained everything because we had that hunt yesterday too, and we can kind of maybe talk a little bit about that. Just a little afternoon hunt, and that's something I was thinking about because of the way the WMAs and all the public land in Alabama sets up now. Where like cutoffs like 1 o'clock. I haven't hunted an afternoon in a while.
Yeah,
like I don't know, 3-4 years, something like that. At least in Alabama. And I was telling Mike, not to jump ahead, but it's like, well, I was telling Mike earlier, like guys like Lyle, when we had him on, he's like, you just don't hear a whole bunch of turkeys gobbling real heavy on the roost in the evening.
Yeah.
Like every now and then you do, but we didn't. We found a couple.
We did. Yeah, we kind of got back in that same area for the, Tuesday morning, second day of season. It just was absolutely raining so hard all day. Wind, rain. I mean, like downpour until about noon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there at my desk working. And it got to be like noon, and the sun came out, and the birds started chirping. I was like, oh, my gosh, they're probably doing it right. I was like, they're standing in food plots. They're walking around on the roads. Because, like, when it rains like that, they like to get in open areas.
Yeah, try to drive.
I got all my work done and everything, and was able to slip out about 3:30 or so. And like when I'm leaving my house, I got to drive past a big field, and right in that field past the house, there's 4 strutters in it. As I'm driving to the club, I'm like, oh yeah, they're out doing their thing. So we go to the club, get pinned in, drive past the power line of the club. There's 2 hens out on the power line just walking around. So I'm like, okay, I think I know where they're going to be. And we ended up going to the same spot that we called the bird into the day before, did a setup there, called, nothing happened, gave it about 30 minutes. And then we ended up doing a huge circle around to this ridge point that we know they like to roost off of. And the mindset was we're just going to go there and sit till dark, and we're going to call maybe 3 or 4 times before dark. And we go do that. We get on this ridge point, and, man, there's a bunch of crows in there, like, doing fighter jet stuff, like Top Gun.
What?
Dude, did you see them? They were flying under the canopy, like, just, I mean,
barrel
90
rolling?
miles. Yeah, like rolling 90 miles an hour. It's like some Top Gun stuff, dude. It's pretty cool. And they were going crazy. Nothing was gobbling, but we called a couple times. Ended up hearing some hens or something fly up at about 6:40. Sunsets at about 7:02. So a long time before dark. We heard some fly ups, and then shortly thereafter heard a couple gobbles. And I think it ended up being maybe 4 birds in the area. One of them, I think the one that we heard a couple times, the one that gobbled at everything I did. I think he was on our ridge. He was just further down off the point, and then there's a couple across the big valley right there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, long story short, nothing came into us. That one gobbler got pretty close to us. Like if it had been a morning hunt and we were set up right there and he gobbled where he was, I'd be like, we're about to kill this turkey. But he just didn't make it quite far enough up to us, so he roosted a little bit further off, and then we heard some others across the way, and actually, Cody was going out today, and I texted him, and he's like, hey, I'm heading to the club. And I was like, I dropped him a pin of where those were. I'm like, if you want to go mess with them, this is where they were yesterday. They kind of drift up and down this little valley or whatever, and he didn't get into them. So,
oh, did he go in there?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he said he didn't get into them. I think that what they're doing is I think they drift on and off the property right there, and I think that we probably caught them. There's probably like a cycle that they're running where they kind of, cycle through this area, and part of it is off of the club, and there's some other private next to us that looks really good for turkeys, and I think they're probably hanging out over there, and then over the next couple of days they'll probably drift back onto us.
I talked about that on, one episode. It might have been Monday's episode. On some of the pieces of public I hunted last year, they would do that in an area where like some days, like one day they'll be roosted 300 yards from the truck. Next day, there might be one gobbler rooster there, and all the hens and all the other gobblers are further back. Third day, they're way back, and it's like they would do a circle, and like you could follow scratching, and you could see the scratching because like you'd find like hot scratching there. A day or two later, there was no fresh scratching in that spot. You walk a little bit further back, you'd find the fresh scratching. It's like they were just doing a big circle in that area. So there's probably a very good chance they're doing that.
I think part of it too is now that the pressure's on, they're getting pushed into areas that are like not necessarily their first choice. Because this exact same thing happened last year. They were on the roads last year on opening week, and then as the season went on, I ended up killing my bird like 3/4 of a mile off the road, and they just kind of got pushed further and further back to the point where there's some pretty steep hills on the property, and they were basically off the edge of the steep hills, and you had to like the bird I ended up killing, I had to be like right on top of him to hear him, just because of the way the hills and hollers there set up. You would have thought this bird was like 250, 300 yards away, and he was like 80 yards away. Like it just, I don't know, the hills in there kind of play tricks on you. So I'm kind of anticipating that as these birds kind of start to change a little bit, because where Cody went to last year, it was kind of the same way. Like they would be in there and then they'd just be gone, and then like a couple weeks later they'd be back in there, like when people quit hunting it, I guess. So I'm going to be looking out for that this year and see if I can kind of adjust with them. So that's something I'm taking from last year and hopefully going to apply to this year.
Next time we hunt, are we going to go Friday?
Oh yeah, I'm going Friday.
Okay. So if we kill one's a different story, but if we don't kill one for whatever reason, and there's like the little note section in the book, and you write they're all gobbled out.
We should
and just
right, they're done.
Plant that seed in all the other members' heads.
Oh, dude!
If Andrew says they're
psychological warfare.
Yeah, if Andrew says they're gobbled out, man, I might just go crappie fish.
They gobbled out. Yeah. Oh yeah, and we got to talk about the camp mascot too.
Oh,
so we were explaining to a friend of ours from Onyx, who he lives up north, and we were explaining like Southern like pin-out board culture and what that's like, and I was explaining it to him actually right before we went hunting, and actually on opening morning, Sam, Blakely, and Mike were all standing in the pin-out shed. It's like a little shack that we have out there. It's
got bunk beds in it, but I don't know who the heck would sleep.
I would not sleep in there.
I'd sleep in my truck 100 out of 100 times over sleeping in that place.
I would sleep outside on the ground before I slept in that bunk.
Yeah.
And we were standing there talking about how this dude beat us, and and we were joking about like, I wonder if we could put a hidden camera in here to like see when people are like pinning out or whatever. And I was like, yeah, you can put one in this corner. And I looked up with my headlamp, and there's a big rat snake sitting up in the corner, up on one of the 2x4s. And I was like, oh, there's a big snake right there.
You know what's funny? So y'all did that. Y'all didn't notice the one that was scraping the rafters above your head.
Well, actually, we looked and we didn't see another one that morning.
Well, another one got in there then.
Yeah, so you went in there and there was two.
There was two
that afternoon.
Yeah, when me and Mike checked out at like 1 something, I looked up. I was like, that one's still in the corner, and I looked straight up. I'm like, there's one right above my freaking head, like right there.
Yep. And then when I went to pin us out yesterday, there was one back above your head, and it was like crawling between two of the rafters. And I got a good video of it, put it on Instagram. Asked people to come up with names for him, and we got a couple good submissions.
Someone said name it Jacob.
So,
what you trying to say, man? Am I a snake?
Oh my gosh, snake in the grass. Daniel Williams said we should name him Snuggles. So I think I like that one. I think I like Snuggles the snake.
Snuggles.
Snuggles the snake. So yeah, he's our camp mascot now. We're gonna keep looking for him every time we go, and we're gonna make like a collage or whatever, like a video.
Day 4 of
Mr.
Snuggles.
So yeah. I showed Tiffany that video, and she's like, I will never go into that building again.
I don't care about the rat snakes. As long as it's not a timber rattlesnake up there, we're good.
I've always thought in the summertime, like if you get like a forklift and flip this sucker over, God knows what would come out from underneath that thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get to some Q&As.
Okay, cool. So yeah, appreciate everybody submitting Q&As. Again, down in the show notes below on the podcast, or if you're on YouTube watching this, down in the show description of the video, there is a link for Q&As. You can click the link, submit your question, and we'll answer it on one of these Thursday breakdown / outro episodes.
All right. We're going to start off with a deer question, and then we're going to hit a couple turkey questions. This is from Brady Ray in Alabama. He said, I have a deer hunting related question. I've heard y'all talk about one sticking in previous episodes, and it's got me interested in possibly trying one sticking next season. What is y'all's one sticking gear list? I've tried to research different gear, but there's so much information on the internet that I'm kind of lost. I've never even saddle hunted before. I have just hunted from lock-ons and climbers. So I was where you were. The one sticking thing was really confusing to me. And what saved me is I kind of knew some guys that do it, like Michael Pike, one stick for a little bit and repelled and everything.
He was doing it before. I saw.
He was doing it before it was cool.
Yeah, he was doing it back in 2020 when we went to Wyoming.
Yeah.
He was doing it with his. He wasn't even necessarily one sticking. He would just rappel out of the tree. He was using like a Lone Wolf climber, Lone Wolf custom gear climber, or not climber, lock on, with like 4 sticks or 3 sticks. And he'd climb up and he's like, I'm not going to climb down. I'm just going to rappel down and pull my sticks off as I go. I'm like, okay, cool, dude.
It's so fun.
And then he started just one sticking. But yeah,
it's so fun. It really is.
I still haven't done it, but my goal is for this coming season. That's all I'm going to do. Just eliminate all the other sticks so you don't have to carry multiple sticks in. Whether you want to climb 6 foot up a tree or 60 foot up a tree, depending on how much rope you've got. You can do it with that one tool. But I'm still going to take a platform. I'm not just using the one stick and the little platform on top. I'm going to take a platform with me.
Yeah, when I first saw one sticking, I thought it was really stupid. And I was like, why would that looks so hard. And then, like, I got talked into it, and I tried it, and I was like, oh, this is it. And I almost I started to sell my climber because I'm like, I will never use this again. And the only reason I haven't sold it is because it's a Lone Wolf climber, and they don't make them anymore, so I kind of want to hold on to it.
Greg May here is trying to buy mine off me.
Your climber?
Yeah, he said, hey, I heard you're gonna. This is like a month ago. He's like, heard you're just gonna do one stick next year. How much you want for that sit and climb?
$1,000. I'd sell it for $1,000.
I mean, sure, absolutely.
I would definitely sell it.
I still like mine enough. Like,
I'm kind of scared to get rid of it.
Yeah, because it's literally like they don't make them anymore, and it's such a good climber.
It's
really
awesome.
is. It's easy to carry in the woods. Like I carry it with that first like transfer pack. Sits on it real nice. I can strap it to it and walk in, and it's like low profile. It doesn't make a lot of noise. Cast aluminum.
Easy. I like it because it's easy to adjust going up the tree as well.
Yeah, it's super easy. So like if you're climbing 40 foot up a tree and you need to adjust it 3 times on the way up, typically like on a big pine tree, it's super easy to be able to do it. And then I saw XOP is coming out with their new climber that they've been working on for a little while in collaboration with our buddy Clifton Denny.
Yep.
They just made a post with him about it. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see like what they've done to their new climber, because I've seen some of their old climbers. Like Mike's got one of their climbers, still a good climber, looks fine, but like the simplisticness of that sit and climb from Lone Wolf when they used to make them. Again, they haven't made them in 4 years maybe now.
Yeah.
I mean, they stopped making them when I bought mine. I bought mine 3 years ago from a guy out of Pennsylvania, and he shipped it to me.
Yeah,
Best decision I made.
Yeah, I bought mine used off a guy too. But man, we got so off track there. So one sticking, really, so what I use is I got a saddle. Doesn't really matter what saddle you use, other than like preference, I guess.
Yeah, just whatever you feel comfortable in.
Yeah, just whatever you feel comfortable in. And then I got 40 feet of, I can't remember the millimeter, but it's climbing rope.
It's 8. I think you're using 8 millimeter.
Yeah, it's probably 8 millimeter.
8 or 9.
8 or 9 millimeter climbing rope. I got mine from a store around here. If you're in Alabama, there's some stores called Alabama Outdoors, and they have like rock climbing gear, and that's where you're going to find that rope. If you want to go buy it in person, you can order it online. But it's kind of hard to, like, I started to order some online, but I was having trouble figuring out exactly what I needed. And it's kind of expensive to, like, have it shipped, so I didn't really want to do that. So I just went to the store and unraveled it, and it was not very expensive at all. And I bought one of those, and I initially got a
well, they sell it by the foot, too, so you can, like, especially if you go to a store.
Oh, yeah, they got a huge roll of it.
That's what I'm saying. You go to, like, a store and you
can buy 100 foot of it.
Yeah, if you, say you want, like, a weird number, I want 56 feet of rope, okay?
Yeah.
Whatever. Typically if you buy it online, they sell it in 20-foot increments, so,
yeah.
You might need that little little middle ground.
Yeah, if you got really anybody who, if you live around like a metro area, like Birmingham's got some. I know Atlanta's got some.
REIs, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're gonna have that. Any kind of rock climbing place. There's on 280. There's like a rock climbing gym. They're probably gonna have stuff. That's where I would go if you want to get in person. I'd recommend getting in person.
No, you use static line. It's not dynamic. It's not
yeah, it's static line.
So static line doesn't stretch. Dynamic stretches.
Yeah,
which I've heard why you don't want to use that, but I don't remember the 100% the reason.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can get. I don't know. You can look it up. I use static line, and again, I just went and bought it in person. So that's going to be like your rappel rope. So to go with that, initially I got a Petzl Gree, which again I went and got at REI here in Birmingham, and that's just it's a belay device, so it's what allows you to rappel down. You can get other devices like a Figure 8, which is a non-mechanical device, and essentially you're controlling your descent. I haven't used a Figure 8. This is like, as I understand it, I could be a little bit off, but you essentially control your descent with like your hand,
pressure,
and the pressure that you're putting on the rope. I elected to not go with that, even though it's cheaper and lighter weight and less moving parts, simply because of the safety aspect. I like the fact that like a Gree, basically you feed the rope through it, and when you put weight on it, it pinches that rope, and there's a little lever, and you just pull the lever, and the harder you pull, the more rope it lets out. So you can zip down that tree if you want really, really fast, or you can go really, really slow and just kind of moonwalk down the tree. But if you let go of it and you fall, and you completely let go of everything, it's going to catch you. You're not going to keep going down. So I like that aspect of it too.
But you switched over to a Mad Rock.
Yes. So the Gree is like ginormous and loud and heavy. It's kind of hard. I found it hard to control my descent. So like you go pretty quick with that thing, like a little bit faster than I want to go. And if you're not wearing gloves, you can kind of burn your hand a little bit because you're still holding the rope kind of behind you as you're going down. And so I ended up trying a Mad Rock and really liked it. So I got that. Started to sell the Gree, but then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw it in my backpack and just keep it in there as a backup. So now I just have that as a backup in my pack, but I use the Mad Rock to actually descend. So again, that's my rappelling rope. Other than that, obviously you have the one stick. And there's a couple different options out there.
There's a bunch of different options.
Yeah, I mean they're coming out. I would personally recommend getting one that you can put an aider on, and getting like a 2 or 3 step aider, because that's going to significantly cut down on the amount of times you have to move.
By the way, you can use any climbing stick as a one stick.
Yeah, you can.
As we've realized, like you don't have to have a cam cleat on there with the whole rope and everything.
Yeah.
We know guys that use a cam buckle and like a Versa button, on their stick that they use to climb with. I mean, you can use any climbing stick. You can use a Hawk, you can use a Lone Wolf, you could use a tethered, you can use any climbing stick on the market as a one stick. But they have a lot of the quote unquote classified one sticks that people sell. They have the cam cleat on there, so it's easy to take the secure line, the rope on and off as you're moving it up. And a lot of them have some kind of like little platform. But see, my thought is, and you've gone from using my one stick to now like one stick and maybe a platform. But like my thought is I still want a full size platform in order to be able to kind of pivot easier around the tree and also be able to freestand on the platform. Like I like a larger platform, and to me, it's not like that much weight. If I'm not carrying, 4 sticks in the woods, I'm only carrying one stick. I can climb as high as I want. It's replacing where I would use a climber, where I would want to climb real high, but it gives me the versatility to be able to go around some limbs and stuff to be able to get in trees that I could get a climber in unless I was going to cut the limbs off.
Yeah, definitely. So I use a 4-step aider with mine, and that allows me to.
Hey, you keep saying mine.
Yeah,
remember
with Jacob's stick.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, you can buy it from me. I'll sell it to you.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to do that one of these days. So I use that 4-step aider because I think in 3, like for bow hunting, I only have to move the stick like 3 times, sometimes just twice. Mm-hmm. So I can really get up fast, and it's just easier to have that extra, length. Because when I'm like hanging on the side of the tree and I take that thing off, I'm putting it like as high as I can reach because I got a step right here. And so obviously you need your one stick. Other than that, I still carry a lineman's rope and a tether. So I climb with my normal just hunting tether, and that's normal length. It's not like 40 feet long or anything. And I've got my rappel rope wrapped up, and it's in one of my little saddle pouches. And then I've got my lineman's rope too. So I use my tether and lineman's rope as I'm climbing up the tree, and I hunt out of my normal tether. And then when I'm ready to get down, I throw my rappel line on and go down that way. So that's really all the gear that you need. Like you need your climbing stick, you need your rappel rope, lineman's rope, tether, and that's pretty much it.
How do you retrieve your rappel rope?
I use my bow pull up rope. So I'll pull my bow up and I'll put my bow or rifle down the tree, and then I take the other end of that rope. So one end's tied to my gun. I lower my gun down, and I take the other end that I'm holding on to, and I tie it to the what do you call it? The girth hitch. Mm-hmm. So the end of that loop on your girth hitch, and that's it. You just tie it to that, and when you rappel down, you just yank it out of the tree.
An easier way to do it is just already have a tied small little carabiner on the end of your pull-up rope, and then just use that, clip it on to that girth hitch and pop it off. So you don't have to constantly tie knots.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that might be a little bit easier.
I don't know. You might get lazy one day, like, I ain't going to do any kind of special knot. I'm just going to do a little overhand, maybe a double overhand knot, and you get down there, it pops off.
Oh, that's what I do. Double overhand every time. Hadn't failed me yet. Now, I will say the higher that you go in the tree, the harder it is to pull that thing out. So that is something to be a little bit mindful of, because I've gotten in a couple situations where it was really difficult to actually get that pull-up rope out, or the rappel line out. And you want room where you can step away from the tree. So if you're standing directly under it, pulling it straight down, sometimes it can get kind of hung, and it's hard, and you got to start stepping away from the tree. And there's been some like thicker spots that I've hunted in where that was kind of difficult. But at the end of the day, you could there's stuff you can do. Like the listener that we were hunting with earlier this year, who climbs like 100 feet, he'll actually take his retrieval rope and wrap it around a climbing stick and use that as like leverage, and he'll put like all his weight on it to kind of like break that pressure up top to get it to come out. But there's a couple different ways of doing that, but that's essentially the gear list that you need. Like, it's not a ton of gear, but I would for sure recommend getting a Mad Rock a belay device to actually rappel out. For sure, I would recommend that. All right, so we got to get moving here. This one is from Matt Atkins in South Carolina. He said, I'm planning on doing an out-of-state trip to the Black Hills, South Dakota to chase some Merriam's turkey. Any advice for Merriam / out-of-state turkey hunts in general? What you got?
Everybody I've talked to hunted Merriam's or anything. It's like, dude, and Rios, especially when you get over there. If you can find water, you should find turkeys.
Yep.
So, like, if you find, using Onyx, if you find any little creeks or streams, anything like that, a little bit of timber, you're probably going to find some birds. And so on. But also, anytime you're going out of state, whether you're hunting turkeys, deer, or anything, the easiest thing to do, don't put something on social media. Like, first off, you post that in our public land turkey hunters group. I'm not going to approve your post. Because not trying to hotspot or anything about how to find turkeys when I go out of state. The easiest thing to do is literally find the area you're generally interested in, go online, go to the DNR's website, and find the biologist that oversees big game hunting or just turkeys in general for the area, and call them.
Yeah.
And just be like, hey, I'm coming from South Carolina, coming out there turkey hunting, just for example. What do I need to look for? First off, is the turkey numbers in that area fairly high? Is it pretty hit or miss?
Yeah.
What are some of the factors that would help me find turkeys easier? And I promise you, the biologists are very open to help you out, okay?
Yes.
That is by far the easiest way where you get direct intel from somebody who actually works out there. They live out there, the whole 9 yards, and you don't have to go through like, oh man, I hunted out there 4 years ago. This is what worked for me. Literally just call the biologist. If you call the biologist, it's the easiest and fastest way to get the most accurate information possible. And I promise you, they're going to be extremely helpful telling you. Like, sometimes they might just like, that area is not worth going into. Like, turkeys are very hit or miss there.
Yeah.
I would maybe look at this other area. And I've had biologists tell me that in the past, or even game wars. Like, when I hunted Arkansas, I was really interested in hunting this one area. And I didn't have the biologist number up there, but I knew one of the game wardens. I called him, and he's worked there for 20 years. I'm like, what's the turkey population like there? And he's like, dude, they might be 3 turkeys get killed on that whole property the whole season. I would not go to that property. I would go to a different adjacent property from there. It has a lot higher turkey numbers. We went there and got on birds every single day.
Yep, 100%. I don't really have anything to add to that. That's good advice. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Easiest thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And keep moving until you find them. All right. Next up, this is from Chad Chesser in Alabama. He says, so my question is, during deer season, I see turkeys all the time. As someone who is new to turkey hunting and wants to hunt these turkeys, how would I go about locating them? Do they transition to different areas during the springtime, or should I go back to where I've seen them during deer season and go from there? So
What state is he in?
Alabama.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I like this question because this like directly applies to really our strategies for turkey hunting, and very similar situation on the hunting club. We're hunting them exactly where we saw them in deer season. In fact, where we called that gobbler up to was a place that we consistently saw turkeys all deer season long. It's not so like right here in early turkey season, late in March, like we're starting to green up pretty good, but it's not like fully leafed out yet. Like things aren't totally different, so I feel like they're still holding pretty close to where they are. They will shift though at some point. When full green up happens, they're going to change, and it might be a big shift, it might be a little shift. They may have already shifted on your property, but I would just start with where you were seeing them in deer season and go from there. Like go out in the mornings, you need to listen for them and just use your ears to find them. And if you're not hearing any with your ears, maybe get in there and start looking around and see if you find the sign. If you don't hear any and you don't find any sign, you don't find tracks, scat, feathers, dust bowls, anything, scratching, then go somewhere, keep looking, like start adjusting and going to places where maybe you wouldn't expect them to be.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. It's like walk logging roads, look for tracks, walk food plots, look for tracks, creek bottoms, look for tracks. Scratching, we've mentioned this in the past, but like scratching, once you know what you're looking at, it's very easy to see. And a lot of times, especially if you're in like pine country with a lot of pines, like pine plantation, it's really easy to see scratching from a distance. Hardwoods, it can be, in certain conditions. Like if it's a really sunny day, it's kind of hard to tell. But if it's kind of like overcast, you can see scratching pretty far. But scratching is literally like they're going through, they're picking up, they're kicking the leaves back, they're kicking the pine straw back, and they're trying to find acorns, they're trying to find bugs, trying to find a little greenery, little green shoots that are popping up that they're feeding on. And if you find that, especially if it looks fresh, as in like if you find it and the ground still looks pretty dark, it looks kind of like moist, it's not dried out, that's extremely fresh. Kind of like if one thing I started doing a couple of years ago is like if you find scratching, you're trying to figure out how old it is, and you're like, it looks pretty fresh. If you just take your boot, next to that scratching, you kick it out, see what that looks like compared to like what you're finding, and be able to kind of figure out like, okay, if it looks really similar to what you just did, those turkeys are probably pretty close to you.
Yep.
Okay. And then like listening. I mean, it's that simple in the morning. Just go out and listen. Like you don't even need an owl hoot call or anything like that. Just, if they're gobbling, they're going to gobble on their own, and, get on a high spot where you can hear a long ways, but be very cautious when you're going in to listen. Because if you're going to a high spot there and it's not windy, there's a good chance there's gobblers. If there's turkeys on the property, they're probably somewhere around that high spot anyways, just from a roost standpoint. And just, go out and listen. It kind of goes back to that listener that reached out to us, I think from Georgia a couple of weeks ago, that we actually asked Wayne how to handle that situation where he'd hunt the same place for like 3 years. He's never seen a turkey, never heard a turkey, never seen any sign or whatever. I'm like, don't hunt there then. If you're not seeing them, you're not hearing them, and you're not seeing any sign, go on to a different, property and, drive a little bit to a different
parcel. Find some greener pastures.
Yeah, for sure. And then learn that one really well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, that's the cool thing about turkeys, man, is like, it's not like deer hunting in that, like, you're like hunting this ghost. I mean, they're walking around yelling, literally. So you can go out and get on a high spot and listen for them. And like, if you go out one time and you don't hear any, like I would not get discouraged by that. If I went out 4 times and didn't hear any, I would get pretty discouraged by that. Especially, if you go on 4 bad mornings, that's one thing. But if you go on 4 good mornings, or even 2 mediocre mornings or whatever, like you ought to hear something, put some time in.
How would you classify good, bad, and mediocre morning condition-wise?
What I personally like, especially here in this earlier part of the season where the weather's kind of wishy-washy, is like, for instance, it's been like real rainy and windy and just crappy outside these last couple days. And this morning it was like kind of warm, bluebird skies. I don't know, it just kind of feels like spring. That's a morning I get excited about. Or like if it's been kind of cold and it's getting to be like, let's say like this evening, it's getting to be evening time and it was kind of overcast. It was a little bit windy. It was kind of feeling like a cold front was rolling in. We were outside earlier. Like that doesn't fire me up that much about tomorrow morning. 'Cause like to me, actually the day before, the evening before kind of keys me up to what I think the next day is going to be like. So I'll tell you one thing. If you wake up early in the morning and there's like birds chirping, especially when there's birds chirping before daylight, I'm like, oh.
What about that whippoorwill?
Oh, you get the whippoorwill. Hey, that where there's whippoorwills, there's turkeys, baby. But yeah, you wake up like when I wake up to go out to listen or hunt and it's dark outside and I walk outside and it's kind of warm and there's birds chirping in the pitch black dark, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be a good morning.
I'm looking at the weather tomorrow because I'm going to go listen. Let's see. Ah, crap.
What?
I hate freaking wind.
Oh, it's going to be windy?
10 to 15 mile an hour. It's hard to hear them, like, especially if it says 10 to 15 mile an hour, that's not including gusts.
Yeah,
So
that's a sustained wind.
Yeah, so like it could be 20, 25 gusts.
Oh, yeah.
It is very, very hard to hear a turkey in that condition, but I'm still very tempted. Friday morning's going to be chilly, dude. It's going to be 40 degrees at daylight.
That's all right.
I know, but it's supposed to be 5 to 10 mile an hour all day, which would be perfect.
Yeah, that sounds like a good morning.
Dude, I don't know about you, but those days when it's super calm, that kind of freaks me out a little bit because it's so hard to move through the woods quietly, especially if you're moving on turkey. But like when you have like that 5 mile an hour wind, just a little bit of subtle noise, but you can still hear something walking.
Just kind of brings the woods to life a little bit.
Absolutely. It's like that is awesome.
Yeah, I like that, dude. I like that a lot. Some people pay attention to barometric pressure. So if you're looking and you're getting a high pressure day, I really like the app Ventusky for this. They should totally sponsor this podcast.
I'm gonna look up what the.
So if you look at Ventusky, I can't remember. It's like it hovers around. If you're looking at it in like inches, it hovers around like 30 roughly. And if it gets to like, so let's say that I'm looking at the I do pay a little bit of attention to this.
Do you have the premium version?
No.
How the heck do you see barometric pressure?
You don't have I got barometric pressure. I didn't even know they had a premium version.
It says it's premium. It's air pressure.
Let's see. Air pressure. No, I got it.
What?
What are you talking about?
You pay for yours then?
No, I don't pay for it.
Look, mine, I got to pay for them. Look at it.
Ha! They're discriminating against gingers.
Dude,
What's it going
to be tomorrow? Let me see.
So look, on this map,
okay,
the listeners can't see this, but if I'm cycling through, and this is a map with a grid on it that's got the barometric pressure. So right now it's at 30, okay?
Which most people talk about like that 30 and above's good.
Yeah,
gobbling.
so like 30 is good. But if we start flipping through 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5, 6, 7 a.m., you can see that 30.2 is like rolling through. So that
it's going to be rising.
Is coming. So a rising pressure, I like that.
Well, see, but then that kind of contradicts what you're talking about for tomorrow, because tomorrow's going to be right. Hold on, what's it going to be at like 6 a.m.?
6 a.m., it's going to be 30.1. So it's going from 30 before daylight, like in the dark, to after daylight, it's going to be like 30.2 mid-morning. I think that's going to be good. Now, if I look at the same thing on if I'm looking at so this is another thing I do. I'm looking at Ventusky again. 6 a.m. 0 cloud cover for the club. No clouds. Okay, hold on. You can look at your own phone. This is tomorrow fires me up, okay, from this perspective.
What's a wind going to look like?
So that's what I'm looking at next. Okay, so barometric pressure rising. Clouds 0%. So it's going to be sunny bluebird morning. Feels like temperature going to be 40 degrees. Again, I like that. Wind speed, wind speed is going to be around 12 miles an hour at 6 a.m. So the only thing I don't like is the wind, but everything else is thumbs up for that. And I think, potentially still be able to hear pretty good in the morning. That's not terrible. Once it gets to, now it's a little bit different, like depending on where because if you're hunting around more mountainous terrain, that can like really jack things up when you get wind.
It skews everything.
Because that wind can be a lot higher. Even in our little bitty mountains we got here
just
in
compresses.
the deep south, it can funnel. I don't know what it does, but it makes it more intense. But those are all the things I look. Rising pressure, check. 0 cloud cover, check. It's not gonna be like hot and muggy, check. and the wind's not going to be crazy. Check. If I went out tomorrow and didn't hear a gobble, I would assume it was because I was in the wrong spot, not because they weren't gobbling.
Are you sure you ain't paid for this?
Yeah, I've never paid for it.
Let me see if yours says premium.
Look here.
Pull it up, because even for cloud cover, it says I gotta buy it.
What?
Yeah,
dude. Maybe I just ought to not update this sucker. Yeah, no, I don't see anything at all. Look at it. I don't see anything about premium.
Oh, I'm so upset. Oh my God, you have everything on here. I don't have, dude. See, on mine, I can see temperature, feels like temperature, which is relative temperature, precipitation, radar, satellite image.
Maybe they heard me giving them shout outs.
I know, wind gusts, air quality.
They hooked me up.
God, okay, I gotta look at cloud cover one more time.
Cloud cover 0. Like I said, that's not foolproof, obviously, because their animals are going to do what they're going to do. But that's the stuff that I like to look for.
Okay, I'm excited. Okay,
I think they're going to gobble tomorrow. All right. Based on that.
All right, let's wrap this up, because I got turkeys to go listen to in the morning.
If it was going to be cloudy, if it was going to be more windy, if it was going to be low pressure, none of that would fire me up. But all of those things, I'm like, yeah, they're going to talk tomorrow. I think they're going to talk tomorrow. It's just making sure you're in a spot to hear them.
I wish I could gobble like David Ellis. I start doing that at the end of every episode.
And also, like, I don't know if I've really talked to anybody about pressure. We've probably asked some people on the podcast, but I can't recall like a specific conversation.
I just talked to someone recently. It might be who we're going to be interviewing on Friday talking about it. Someone I've talked to recently was mentioning like huge, like they focus a lot on that rising pressure, like 30 plus.
Yeah, and like that's just something that I've noticed going out listening. Like I've tried to pay attention to all this stuff, and I've just caught on to it over the years. And it might not be that like rising barometric pressure is what gets turkeys to gobble. It might be something associated with that, like maybe the pressure's rising because the storm system that we've had kind of over us these last 2 days is moving out, and that high pressure system is like pushing it out or something. And the change in weather system, I don't know what it might be, but I always just feel more confident on those days, and I've heard other people say similar stuff. So anyways, I guess we need to go listen for turkeys in the morning.
Yep. Well, so, I don't know if you probably aren't.
No, I got to work. I might slip out to the club if I'm feeling frisky.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, could you not go for like 20 minutes?
I could probably go till about 8:30.
We just hunt if you can go that long. What the heck?
Yeah, I'll probably go. I might go hunt in the morning. We'll see. I gotta go home and edit this dang podcast, bro.
That's true. All right, cool. Well, appreciate everybody watching the podcast on YouTube. Appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. Also, heads up, if you made it this far to the podcast, we've got all of our hats are back in stock. So I'm wearing one right now, the old school camo patch hat. Got all of them back in stock. Got a couple orders we're going to be shipping out tomorrow. So if you want a turkey killing hat, you need to grab one of these old school camo hats. And listen, if you kill one in one of these hats, we've already had a listener kill one in one of these hats.
Yep, got a listener success story.
Yeah, write in a listener success story if you kill a turkey using anything you've learned on the podcast from any of the guests or anything that we've discussed as well. Love to hear some of those stories and also be able to share some of those stories as well this spring. So again, appreciate everybody watching, appreciate everybody listening. We'll catch y'all back on the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsmen Podcast. And remember, guys, y'all stay Southern.